And starting to the bottom left of Kwangali Beach, we have the Zerg player for Root Gaming.
Root Gaming YugiOh.
Part of the cards on this one.
Yeah, but for him it is another season in the Challenger League. He cannot advance to the Premier League anymore. He's already out of the group. Starting to the top right, fighting for his chances to get the last spot into the Premier League is the LGIM Protoss player.
LGIM Squirtle.
This is the guy who I thought for sure was the safest pick to get out of the group. But today he's looked a little bit more shaky than usual.
Yeah, Squirtle finds... I mean, to be quite frank, Squirtle is still in a position where he has taken his wins today. We have a quick scout here, by the way, by YugiOh, but Squirtle is currently at a 1-2. He lost 2 of his matches. He won the one against the Fantasy, but he lost to DIG. On the other hand, today is one of those days where we have to ask who didn't.
Yeah.
Squirtle lost to Trap as well, so he lost to Trap and he lost to Fantasy. If he takes this, he's on a 2-2. He wants to go into the tiebreaker. That's the only thing that he can hope for. He needs a tiebreaker, he needs Fantasy to win against Trap, and of course he needs to win his own game here as well. And then we would go into another group with tiebreakers. We already had one last, I think it was on Thursday.
Yes, it was. Last time these guys played against each other in the up and downs was in 2012's GSL Season 2. Squirtle did win the match. Back then Squirtle was much more dominant than YugiOh. YugiOh has improved so much as a player, especially seemingly after he joined Root. He just shot up out of nowhere. I mean, he was always a player we all knew and loved, being the King of Korea, but he's really taken out some top-tier players. Of course, here are some of our GSL stats and accomplishments for the two players. You can see they both played a lot. They have a lot of experience in the booth. 50 games played for Squirtle. He's got a lot more. And, you know, a Nexus going down here. Very good build here for Squirtle, especially for the map. I like it. Choke point is good for this type of build. This is the first glimpse that YugiOh gets.
I would personally be so annoyed to play a game against YugiOh where there are no stakes for him anymore. The guy is already unpredictable as it is. But if he's suddenly in such a position, it's like, well, he might go for a 5 pool. He might kill a drone and then get the spawning pool. I wouldn't put it past him.
He could do something like that.
If we ever see a 5 pool, it's gonna come out of YugiOh. That's the one thing that I'm sure. Or TLO.
Yeah, or TLO. Could see it.
And then win.
I love the TLO like 5 barracks proxy TVT build. I guess it works on all matchups. When you used to do that in Wings of Liberty when Marines were stronger, but the 3 gateways here coming up are going to give Squirtle the potential for pressure. Could even add a 4th one. But as it is, YugiOh is actually playing a very good game. He's playing very safe, and he's also making sure that he doesn't cut any corners with his play.
It's just like having the speed out there once again, just poking a bit at the front against gateway openings. You want to have an early speed. You can delay it by a little bit. You can just optimize your timings if you want to, but the early speed will give you a very good grasp on what's going on. You can find that trope.
Diablo the Musical is on that side. Diablo the Musical, I'd love to check that one out.
That's actually the musical that I would attend. Have you ever watched a few?
Yeah, a few.
Which ones?
I like Spam-A-Lot. That's the one that comes to mind right now. Spam-A-Lot came to Korea actually recently. I didn't have the chance to see it, but in Korean, Spam-A-Lot, that just sounds pretty nuts. He's ruining that plant with his creep spread.
Like, one of the best musicals that I've been to was actually Starlight Express. That's really good.
I've heard good things. I did not see that one.
Yeah, I always wanted to go to Lion King in Hamburg.
I've been to Lion King a few times.
Unfortunately, every time I'm in Hamburg, I don't get the chance because I'm really, really drunk. I'm trying to work around that. Maybe the next time.
How are the hamburgers in Hamburg?
They're good.
Good.
As you would expect.
Yeah, just checking.
Yeah.
Nice cancel timing there. Knows that that's a no-go. And this pressure potential is now at 0 because he's got very little to really go on here. Now that his pylon is gone, that was the one chance. He also saw with that probe there was no third base there, so he was thinking, well, is this even a good idea? Probably not.
Talking about good ideas, what exactly is YugiOh doing?
He's making a lot of Zerglings and then some Spine Crawlers because I think he thought that there was a big attack coming.
Yeah.
He got tricked by that pylon, maybe.
He must really think that there's a massive attack heading his way. But he's getting double upgrades, and he just has so many spine crawlers there at the front.
He takes the opportunity the Zerglings give him at the rocks, or the unit name missing here, whatever those things you want to call them, the plates that are blocking. Fireworks for dead overlords.
Huh.
YugiOh has a lot of lings that he can control the map with and also prevent a third base of Squirtle with. And Squirtle's going into robotics first. This really affects YugiOh's worker count. He's down on harvesters, and he's making even more Zerglings right now.
That's a lot of lings that he has on the map to maybe prevent a third base for the time being. He has the spore crawlers now too.
It's almost too many though. I think he has over 40 now on the map. He's got so many.
I really think that it was completely faked out here because the spine crawlers are not going to do too much. It gives him a little bit of safety, but there's no timing that his opponent is trying to hit, so that was an investment that didn't really pay off.
It costs him money and drones.
Yeah, he has three spine crawlers, so that's a little bit too much. Very ground-heavy style with those super fast 1-1 upgrades.
Drones being picked up here. And he's trying to make these Phoenixes do something extra, but they've already done so much because he killed so many overlords. He cleared the map, forced YugiOh to spam out a few overlords. Now he has too many, messing with his larva. And now it's Squirtle who's on the defensive, making that photon cannon, trying to get his +1 out here. I really like those new icons for the forge. Of course, this one was unchanged, but that new one, every time I see it, the +2, I get excited.
I'm really excited to see what YugiOh is going to do next, now that his attack is done.
He's definitely going to be able to deny Squirtle's third for a while, but in a few minutes here with the new gateways, he's definitely going to be able to push it out.
I mean, is he going for... He goes for an infestation pit right away. He goes into the +2 melee upgrade. Is he really going for the Ultralisk build here?
Or
I would
swarm
love
hosts?
No. I don't think we're going to see too many swarm hosts because then he would go for the range upgrade instead of attack, or at least go for the armor upgrade. The one thing that I'm really missing here a little bit is we can't check how many queens he has because he has constantly been producing queens, and I would like to know how many. If he goes into
Spire?
With a Spire, I guess Broodlord later on as a transition, because like rushing out Broodlords right now would be a very weird choice given that we have still so many of the Phoenixes on the map.
Yeah, you know, this is weird. He's making more Zerglings. He's really just trying to make it so that Squirtle can't get a third base, and he's had a third for a while, but he hasn't gotten any gas from it, but he hasn't been mining from it for all too long.
You can go for Link Corruptor for quite some time. That really keeps you alive if you have such a an upgrade-heavy composition. That's where all of his resources currently go. That's why you can make the links work. You need to have the lava
This
for that.
does not work. I mean, I don't even know why he stuck around here. I mean, that was clearly way too many sentries.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the supply. YugiOh is just in a really bad place right now.
Well, that's the fast hive that we were talking about. So the fast hive is there. Doesn't have the gas at the third phase just yet.
He has 3 drones mining from his third. You might as well say he doesn't have a third. He's
It's basically what he uses for lava right now.
I mean, he's got so few drones. He's really just trying to use this Zergling composition. He's going to lose this queen, and when you're this larva intensive, that's never a good thing. Now there's a Colossus out. These lings aren't going to do anything.
He needs Corruptors now that he has the Spire. There they are.
4 of them.
Gets the Corruptors. I just don't really see that work in the long run. Because he has no third base economy. That's the problem. He has a third base up, but it's not really mining, and especially in gas he doesn't have that. If he's trying to buy time and rush Ultralisks and then do something with them, maybe it works, but what can he get on Hive Tech that can really help him to beat this army with the resources that he currently has? There's not a lot that comes to mind.
You know, it really says a lot that at 13 minutes and 20 seconds, Phoenix are still trying to pick off Overlords because there's no lair tech, there's nothing that YugiOh has that says your Phoenixes can't be here anymore. The lings he had were a good idea, but he's held on to them for a while. There's the Ultralisk Cavern, and 3 plus 3/3 will start in just a few seconds. But as soon as this is scouted, it's so easy for Squirtle to react. He can make a few Void Rays, get the Immortals out.
He's going for the Ultralisks after all. I am a little bit surprised by that. I mean, Ultralisks, if you rush them, they can be really strong, but I feel not the way that YugiOh is playing this. He does need more economy than that. He needs the gas at the third, and he's getting that very late. He had a very low drone count there too. So, I mean, the Ultralisk build can work, but personally, I do not really like it on this map. I feel there are better maps for the Ultralisk build than this. the upgrades are gonna really come through for him, but his economy, 3 bases against 3 bases, if Squirtle gets a whiff of this, he should be able to fend this off.
Easily. And the thing is, there's not going to be a lot of Ultralisks. It's all about the Queens and the Transfuses, because he can only make so many with only 6 gases, and he's been on 4 gases for the longest time. It's not like he can make 8 Ultralisks. That's not going to happen. He can make like 4.
Well, the thing is, if you keep them alive, the Ultralisk can really work out. That's why I said it's a little bit unfortunate for us that we don't have a look at the queen count. But it's only 3 queens. He doesn't have the extra queens that you usually see with the build. The creep spread is decent, so that helps him. But I would really love to see extra queens for the transfuse. That's what makes this build so strong usually.
And he's just killing so many of the queens with his phoenixes as it is.
Exactly. And the Ultralisk Kevin has been found, so immediately the transition, bam! Second Robo.
Second Robo. Immortals started +3. He can even make a Void Ray at his Stargate. 5 Ultras on the way. And that's all he can really do here.
He kind of has one shot to make this work.
Yeah.
And the Lings with the run-by, that's a big part of it, but it has already been spotted. There is an Observer, so it would be really surprised if that does damage.
Yeah, you can't even make these Ling run-bys work. YugiOh is just so hard-pressed to force this to work, and with the second second Immortal production going on, I don't think it works.
I mean, the one thing that really comes through for YugiOh, if you just look at this from an objective point of view, is that he has much better upgrades. The +3 attack upgrade might be a little bit delayed here because of the gas that he has to invest, but the upgrades in general for him are better than the ones that we see for Squirtle here.
Yeah.
The double Forge is going to help, of course, with that, so Squirtle can go into shields and armor at the same time. But with the double Immortal now being built, every second that YugiOh waits works against him because of that late expansion that he had. The late gas that he took at the 3rd and the late 4th. The 4th now coming in for Squirtle, only a little bit delayed. We have Archons already, and we have 2 Immortals with good target firing later on in the fight. YugiOh should have big problem. He's going for additional queens right now, but he doesn't have those 6, 7, 8 queens that you usually see with this build, or even more. I mean, we've seen builds like this with up to like queens in the 10 till 15.
With the wall?
When you go really crazy, and when you have maybe, for example, Void Rays against you, which is not the case here.
Yeah. I don't know about Squirtle taking the fight to him. That would actually give YugiOh a great advantage with the creep and also his queens being nearby.
I do not have Infestors.
I don't like him moving out onto this creep. That could be a problem. There's going to be a lot of Zealots to tank.
The flank here is an attempt. You know, with those
I don't like it.
With those stupid umbrellas against the sun, it might actually work, but no. That's actually even worse.
This is the best engagement YugiOh could have hoped for, but now the Zealots get at the front. The Colossi able to tank.
No, this is like the worst. I mean, a good Immortal focus, not really.
Fake Immortals in the front. But they start to go down.
Yeah, the Ultralists are going down right now. The focus is now a lot better. And Squirtle is taking down the entire supply. This is like... I'm sorry, but that doesn't work.
It was... the timing was missed. The window... He missed the time because he was too late. He had the 3rd base for so long without a 4th. Squirtle has a 4th base now. He has double Immortal production.
He's reinforcing with Lings, though, YugiOh, that is, and there's not a lot against the Archons are the only thing that he really has if he takes those down somehow. But it's just like, that's why I was so baffled to see him go into that tech route. I couldn't believe that he would go into Ultralisk with the economy that he had and everything else on the map, especially on a map like this. You could really see how that position worked against him, especially with the Time Warp against all the ground units.
Armor getting closer to completion for both players. Of course, the better armor going to Squirtle, but YugiOh didn't kill all the Immortals. There's even more now. Archons kill one of the Ultralisks, and right now YugiOh is making Spinecores because he wants to survive. That's never the type of feeling you want to have when you have an Ultralisk-based army. 5 more of them coming out. They could be the saving grace here for YugiOh, but I just don't see, especially as some of his Ultralisks push through politely the Protoss army, and that's going to be it. He doesn't have enough, not even close. Yeah, not even close.
It's like that didn't work. YugiOh at some point,
no. This one, no. YugiOh is going to take an 0-3 here. Was already out of the group. Now he's out completely. I mean, without a single win. A rough day for him.
It's not a bad build. I personally think it's not a great build for this map. You can argue about that, but Squirtle just played too well against this, and once the Ultra Check was revealed, he made the right choices here, and that's why this is starting to look a little bit silly. Without the Infestors, without the proper engagement, Ultralisk builds are awesome if you have a good engagement, but the situation and the position where he fought in was never in YugiOh's advantage.
You know, it's not even always about the end here, it's about the journey, and the journey to the Ultralisk transition was just not properly done. His third base gas was so late. He made too many Zerglings in the early game that never accomplished really anything.
He was faked out in the early game, expected an attack, invested a lot in resources.
GG.
YugiOh, I feel, having a little bit of an off day today, not taking a single map, typing GG here. Squirtle, he keeps his chances alive to go into the Premier League today, but he has to hope for a win of Fantasy against Trap to bring it into a three-way tie. YugiOh, he's a good player, but this was just simply not his day.
That is very true.
I feel for him, given his play was always creative, his play sometimes looks a little bit gimmicky, but he's a very good player, he's a very strong player, he's proven over and over again. I feel today was just one of those days where things didn't work for him. It happens.
One of those days, man, absolutely true. And YugiOh finds himself now 0-3 in a day where things just went wrong.
I mean, look at the game that he played against Fantasy. A lot of resilience, a lot of very strong moves that he had there, but a few of the basics that he showed in the early stage of the game that just lacked at the end, especially, of course, how he worked against the drops. He used the Corruptors in the early mid-game to shut those down, and then later on he pulled the Corruptors away. He blanked a little bit and had a really tough time against the drops. Fantasy made that happen. Of course, you have to compliment Fantasy for his match and of course also for his multitasking, but it was at the same time a bit of a mistake that YugiOh made, that he never tried to work with his Corruptors or at least Spore Crawlers against the drop. So I feel YugiOh just having one of those off days where he couldn't really show us his true strength, and he is playing in the Challenger League next season. We already established this before the game. There was nothing on the line anymore for him.
He's the king of Code A, and you know, he's going right back there. Even if there's a name change of the league, he's in the same place. He did really well this past season. This up and down group really not indicative of the past few months he's been playing.
It's also the group of death.
It is the group of death. D for death.
Yeah. So a lot of the games today, I mean, we had really intense matches, and a few of them looked a little bit scrappy, but so far I feel a group with a lot of dynamic, especially DRG looking really strong. Maybe disregarding the game against Fantasy, he kind of had his own creative playstyle there. He laughed about the game at the end as well. Was really happy, of course, that he advanced to the Premier League. But that's what you have to do. It's not only about executing a perfect build and taking down an opponent with a timing attack. Sometimes you just have to be creative, and he showed a lot of creativity in that game. Was able to make it happen. And now we're going into maybe the last game of the day. We're going into Trap vs. Fantasy.
This is going to be a good one. Fantasy, not... That last game that we saw from him on Guangali was just against DRG. This is a totally different matchup, of course. He played it earlier, but his splits were terrible. He seems to be a little bit off. It takes a lot for me to say straight up, out loud, uncensored, that somebody's splits are terrible. And they were terrible.
Well, I don't think too many people will fault you with what kind of splits we've seen coming out of Fantasy, especially against YugiOh earlier. That was not what we would expect from him. He has improved a lot with all these moves, but his micro in game number 1 of him today was just a little bit, that was not...
And even some of his micro we saw in the OSL was just not up to what you would expect.
Fantasy has a big problem now on his hands, because this is one of the matchups where he's really not strong, where he is quite shaky. So let's see if he can pull it off against the Trap. Fantasy versus Trap, maybe our last game of the day here at the Up and Down Group D with Colin Wolf.